Rav Dessler brings another story like this. This is a great story. You got to hear this. Rav Dessler says that one of the Bali Musars asked himself a question. Why does God put in us desires beyond our needs? You with me? Why do we have desires beyond it? It's not logical. Animals look. I mean, well, you should desire what you need. I mean, let's say I have enough food and I have everything. Why was it I'm desiring more things, nicer cars and nicer houses and more women? Why am I desiring all these things? It must be. It doesn't make any sense. Not logical sense. If I have what I need, why should I want more? So the answer is, the Bali Musa said, the answer is must be that Hashem put these guys as a test. Must be it's a test. In other words, he's seeing that I have everything I need, and I have more desires. Do I stop myself or not? I can understand that I can't stop myself if I really need something. But if it's beyond my needs, why don't I stop myself? He said at that moment, this is a true story, at that moment there were some chocolates on the table. And this guy, this Bali Musa, was a very big person, but he had diabetes. And he starts looking at the chocolates, and he's like, he just had this unbelievable, great, deep thought. Wow, Hashem put all these desires into a person to control himself. And he sees the chocolates, and he starts eating the chocolate. He can't control himself. So you see, Rav Dessler says, we learn from here that if you work on a thing intellectually, it's not enough. Intellect will not work. When feelings and versus intellect, the feelings are always going to win. You have to somehow penetrate your heart. Yeah, it has to. Right, it has to penetrate. It has to make a hargasha. It has to have an effect. If it doesn't, it's not going to help. Even when the guy came with the big chiddush, he's eating the chocolates. He still can't control himself. The Havdil, I also heard, the Jackie Mason, his brothers are all rabbis, and he also used to be a rabbi. So he said, at what point did he was stop being a rabbi? He said, I was up there giving a tremendous, speech in front of the congregation about how, you have to watch your eyes and you have to be sneeze and modest. And all of a sudden, a beautiful blonde walks into the audience and sits down. And the whole time while I'm speaking, I'm like looking at this girl. And he says to himself, this being a rabbi, this is not for me. He says, at that point, he says he gave up. He quit. The guy's giving a speech. He's giving a speech about how you have to watch your eyes, and a beautiful blonde girl comes into the audience and he can't keep his eyes off her. So he said to himself, at that point I have to give up. But that's not what we're going to do. That's not what we're going to do. We have to say, no, there's a way to fight it, and the Bali Musa taught. So Rav Yisrael Salanter, he gave us a way, which is basically learn Musa, which means you take a verse and you work on it over and over again. But the truth is, you have to be a disciplined person. We see people, Lamaisa, are not doing these things. We're weak. We don't do it. We don't believe in it. I mean, if you have the kokos and you really have the strength to do it, take something that you're working on and find the pasuk in the Torah and say it over and over again till it becomes real. It's like iyun, Make the thing real. Get the heart to feel what the mind knows, and it's called Koach Hatzir. The difference between the Rav Simchas Yisrael said, the difference between a tzaddik and a rasha is Koach Hatzir, the ability to visualize. If I would ask you, what's the difference between a righteous person and a non-righteous person? Well, you say the righteous person, listen, he has a good heart, and he's a good guy, and that guy, that evil guy, he's bad. He's bad. The answer is that's not what's happening. The answer is the only difference is the ability to visualize. The righteous person, when he reads something, he has the ability to get a picture that becomes real to him. That's what makes him righteous. He's able to take it off the page. And the other guy, he doesn't have the seichel, doesn't have the intelligence to be able to do that. That's the difference. Not that he's intrinsically evil in this guy. He said the only thing is koach hatzir, the ability to visualize. It's kavotic. So, Rav Dessler has another solution. He says, since we're weak and it's very hard for us to work hard to discipline ourselves to go Pesukim, he says, let's try something else, what the Shulchan Aruch says. Let's do maisim, actions. By doing small acts, you can also affect your inside. I read one time in Rav Yisrael, I'll explain in a minute. Rav Yisrael Salanter said a gavoltic thing. He said, the mafteach to the midos is the goof. The key to the character is the body. You got to hear this. The key to the character is the body. In other words, I may not be able to affect what's going on inside of me, but I can affect my body. I can move my body. I can do a mitzvah b'zriz with excitement. In other words, he says if you do small things with excitement, for example, coming on time, I could decide to come on time. I can get my body to come on time, and if I come on time with excitement, and I do that small thing. That's another way to penetrate the inner being. By taking the externals, by taking physical action. And he wants to bring a raya. He brings a very nice raya. It says in the Shulchan Aruch that during the 10 days of tshuva, even though a person is not makpi, look what he says here, very interesting, mamish. Who is this? This is Rev Dessler bringing down the Shulchan Aruch. Even someone who's not careful, thank you, someone who's not careful with eating the bread of an akum during the rest of the year, during the 10 days, so he should be careful. Yeah, right. So it's interesting. So he asks Akasha. He says, wait a second, what's it going to help to do it for 10 days? I mean, after the 10 days, I'm going to go back to, he doesn't say to do it forever. He just says during the 10 days. The answer is that hakpada, that being careful during the 10 days could have a permanent effect on the person. By doing ma'asing, by coming on time, maybe saying brach, choose ma'asing, choose. That you have in your control, what you do. So that's his chiddush. That's Reb Dessler's chiddush. So even though we're full of contradictions, and even though you see all kinds of strings that you see ganaving, thieves praying to God to help them, and Rabbi Akiva climbing up a tree, and this guy eating chocolate, and it's also us, I mean, even in the middle, you're like, you shouldn't do it, and you're doing it anyway, what's happening? Even though that's the way we are, still, maybe by changing our actions, we'll be able to affect our heart and really change ourselves.